Et tenez-vous bien, ces mêmes médias, je le dis aujourd'hui haut et fort, surtout Jeune Afrique, nous ont courtisés au tout début 2022-2023.
When you think about trucks, who makes them and who benefits from them? Africa is probably not the first place that comes to the mind, and certainly not Burkina Faso, one of the poorest countries in West Africa. But what if I told you that right now, something big is happening in this small landlocked country? Something bold, surprising, and powerful. Forget everything you thought you knew about manufacturing in Africa, because right now, in the heart of Burkina Faso, there is a factory building more than just machines. It is building pride, big dreams for the continent, and a future no one expected. This is the story of Wampuri Truck Factory, an indigenous manufacturer located in Burkina Faso. This is not a story about foreigners coming to use cheap African labor. This is about the intelligence, skills, and leadership of Burkina Faso's people. For many years, like other African countries, Burkina Faso imported almost all its vehicles, old, second-hand trucks, or very expensive new ones made far away. These trucks were not probably made for the African bad roads or hot weather. They often broke down, and fixing them cost more than the trucks itself, yet millions of people depended on them to move food, goods, and building materials. Burkina Faso people were tired of depending on others. They wanted to do things for themselves. In 2022, that desire became action. Inspired by national pride, Pan-African spirit, and strong leadership of 36-year-old President Ibrahim Traoré, the world's youngest president, a group of local engineers and business people came together with a big dream to build Burkina Faso's first trucks from scratch. At first, this sounded impossible. A country with no car brand, trying to build an industrial truck with no help from the West or China. Just African minds, African hands, and African passion. This was what bettered the Wampuri factory, which was set up just outside the capital city, Ouagadougou. The modern building rose from the red earth like a phoenix. Steel frames were built, machines arrived, and hundreds of young people, many of whom had never been inside a factory before, were trained in everything: welding, mechanics, logistics, designs, quality control, and even automation. 1 year later, the first truck, made fully in Burkina Faso, came off the factory line. It wasn't a copy of anything foreign. It was a machine made from African soil, designed for African roads, and driven by African purpose. These trucks stood out because they were easy to repair. Local mechanics could fix them. Even farmers could maintain them, and every time one truck is sold, it created more work across the country. Today, the factory employs over 500 people from Burkina Faso, young, skilled, and proud. The impact is spreading fast. Local suppliers, transporters, fuel sellers, and universities are all benefiting. Parents no longer have to watch their children risk their life trying to go to Europe to find jobs. Orders for the locally made truck are already coming from countries like Mali, Nigeria, Togo, and Chad. These countries are tired of depending on the West, tired of waiting 6 months for a truck from Germany or Japan to arrive, only to receive a used one that costs double. Now they are looking to Burkina Faso and saying, "We want what you are building." One of the most important things about Wampuri trucks is that they are 25 to 30% cheaper than imported trucks. Why? Because there are no middlemen, no delays, no currency exchange losses, just simple trade, African to African, brother to brother. What started as a local dream has now become a symbol for all of Africa, a message that Africa is tired of waiting, that Africa can build what it needs, that Africa can manufacture its own future. And it all started with one truck. But the dream doesn't stop there. Inside the factory, they are already working on electric trucks, hybrid engines, buses, tractors, even designs for Burkina Faso's first electric car. Imagine that, an electric car made in Africa for African roads and finally powered by African sun. Currently, universities in Burkina Faso are now partnering with the factory to train students in engineering, design, AI, and logistics. Instead of just reading about machines from foreign books, students now get real-world experiences. There are also plans to expand. The factory may build more plants in the north and southwestern region. They want to increase how many trucks they make. They are thinking about using solar energy to reduce cost. They are also investing in labs where young people can test ideas that fit African future. Other African countries are watching closely because if Burkina Faso, a small landlocked country with no car industry, can do this, what is stopping Kenya or Congo or Nigeria, Senegal or South Sudan? For too long, Africa has been seen as a dumping ground for old machines, but the factory is changing that story. This currently shows that Africa doesn't just consume, it creates. Africa doesn't just buy, it builds. And this is important because when Africa starts producing for itself, everything changes. The money stays in Africa, the skill stays in Africa, the power stays in Africa. The youth in Burkina Faso and Africa are not waiting anymore. They are creating jobs, leading change, and pushing limits. So the next time someone says Africa is behind, remember the factory, remember the engineers, the welders, and the dreamers. Remember the sound of an engine made not just from steel, but from belief. If this story inspires you, don't just scroll, like this video, share with someone who believes in Africa, and tell us in the comment section, should more African countries start building their own trucks, cars, and buses? Drop your country's flag below if you believe the future is made in Africa. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do so now, because this is just the beginning. The age of African industry has begun. The future is here, and it is driving history, one truck at a time.